Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track, number 7. I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, Mr. Tom Jackson. Tom was born on the One Arrow Reserve in Saskatchewan. He has been married to his amazing wife and business partner, Allison, for 32 years. Tom shows up each and every day with passion to save lives. He is an inspiration to me and to us all. Please find his impressive bio attached. Tom, thank you for joining us today.
I love you. Thanks, Sarah, for having me on your show.
I love you too, Tom. Thank you. May we start with a few questions that I shared with you this week?
Sure.
Wonderful. So the first one is, what has been your biggest challenge in the last 2 months?
Well, I think discovering or trying to discover how I fit into the world, in that my world is so active and it's so travel oriented. And a lot of people, when I travel, I'm usually working for or with other people, and I can't do that now. Um, and it impacts a lot of other lives other than my own. I mean, I have a friend of mine who said, he's responsible for, he's got 33 employees, and their families rely upon the work that he provides for them, and they're all of a sudden out of work. It's not it's not the same for me. For me, it's being able to be hands-on with people who need help. In a lot of cases, I mean, that's maybe sounding holier than thou, but and I don't mean to do that, but the weight and the depth of this pandemic, when it hits you full force and you're in lockdown, so to speak, is overwhelming. And I, like everybody else, uh, felt that, and I had to try and figure out how to get out of that funk, that weight. And so I did some soul searching along with realizing the color of the paint in my walls, which I had forgotten all about. Oh, and I discovered also that my 15-pound weights are about 45. The ones in the basement, you pick them up, you go, I think this were on 15 pounds and they feel like they're 45. So I discovered that. I discovered how to run the washing machine, like which pellets to put in the whites and which ones not. I figured that out. So it was, in the process, I was learning things. But what happened to me was I realized that I had to fall back on some of the things that I knew. And what I came to realize once again was that if you were going to get out of this funk, you had to try to stop thinking about yourself and realize that you had to think about others. And if you could think about others and you could do things for others from within your confined space, then you were going to become healthy. You were going to feel better. And I think that was probably the biggest challenge to figure out how to cross that bridge and get onto the other side and be able to function within the four walls, the beautiful four walls that I live in.
That's very profound. Thank you for sharing that, Tom.
Mhm.
The next point is, what are the 3 things that you would like to share with our audience today?
I learned, and I'll break this up, but I was fortunate enough to be in Stuttgart this year in Germany, and there was a young lady there, and we were at a film festival, and there was a jingle dancer, a First Nation girl, young girl, and she was dancing, and I learned something. I've been there 2 times, and both times I learned something from somebody that came from some other part of the world. And she said, when asked, "Why do you dance?" And she said, "Because sometimes I can't forgive and forget. I can't. And when I dance, it removes or opens up a space where a toxic trickster lives. And when I dance, I sweat. And okay, maybe I can't forget, but it makes space for forgiveness. She dances herself to help forgive others that have maybe, you know, occupied that space where love should live. And so that was one thing. I'll share another one with you. I was the spirit of the Badlands for a couple of years, where I traveled around the Badlands of Alberta and met people and asked them why they were there and why they stayed and what their history was. And I traveled with a young man, his name is Dax Justin, who was a photographer, and he'd take a lot of pictures, of course. But we were in Dinosaur Park, and we were warned about the cactus. We went to places because the custodian there took us to places where nobody else had been, because he could. And I asked him, why do you do this? And he looked at me like I was nuts. He said, can't you feel it? And I gave it a moment, and I went, yeah, I guess I can. And Dax took a picture of one of these cactus plants, and it was about that big, not very big, and but yay high. And I said, what did you think of that plant, Dax? And he said, well, it's pretty nice. It's pretty, got nice flowers on it, got thorns on it about that big. And I said, do me a favor. And this is what I want to share with you. I said, do me a favor and just look at me and then close your eyes for 3 seconds and imagine me as your brother. Okay, so we're going to do this. Okay. And when you open your eyes, if I'm your brother, and let me tell you that cactus is my sister. How do you feel about that cactus now? So what was the takeaway of that? The takeaway of that is that everything on the planet is part of my family. And if you're not quite sure how that fits into your world, imagine that I'm your brother and that those pieces are brothers and sisters of mine. And it changes that overall perspective. The third thing I'll share with you is similar to that. It's we live right now, and we say this not just now, but right now for sure, we get stressed out sometimes. We feel weighted, and a lot of times we don't know what to do. And I say, okay, we'll do this again, me and you. I say, okay, I want you to close your eyes for 5 seconds and think about 3 things that tickle your soul. 3 things that make you happy. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Now, tell me whether I'm right or I'm wrong. But don't you feel just a little bit better now than you were before you closed your eyes?
100%.
So it works every time. And I guarantee you, I promise you, it works every time. And there's an add-on to that if you want to. The next time you do it, next time you feel not so good, close your eyes and think of 3 things that make you smile and make you happy. And when you open your eyes, consciously go and do something for somebody else.
I love
Your
it.
world will never be the same.
I love that great advice. I love it, Tom. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the final thing is there a good news or legacy story that you want to share with us?
Yeah. When I got this weight off my shoulders, when I myself replaced the toxic space with something, I replaced it not with a word, but with a verb. And that verb was love. I replaced that toxic space. I reoccupied it. I empowered myself by taking that space, which was mine anyway, and putting a verb in there. And what that created was an opportunity for me to be the one-trick pony that I am. And that one-trick pony knows how to organize people, particularly musicians and people in the industry that I'm in such a fashion whereby we could benefit others. And so Allison and I worked on a strategy to help others help themselves, and in turn help others in the process. And that was to rally people together. And we plagiarized Love, because we weren't the first people to do one of these uh, television shows where there's a lot of entertainers and you're able to collect money for a particular charity, one or the other. And we'd been doing this for 30 odd years anyway in real life. But now it's in a surreal life versus a real life. So we called friends of ours. We called people that we knew in the industry, some publishers and some presidents of record companies and others that we thought could help us rally entertainers together and do what you've seen done, which is really take pictures and selfies and take videos and pass them along and then host it. And then there was a friend here in town, Matt Gillespie, who owns a company called Joe Media, which can provide editing and whatnot in the television media. And we decided that we would find an organization that helped musicians in crisis. And I hadn't heard of them before, but I sure know about them now. It's the Unison Benevolent Fund, and they help musicians in crisis. That's all they do. That's what they do. And so we thought, well, we talk to musicians and see if we could help them, because Allison and I dug into a private fund that we have, so we could pay those people to contribute to this show called Almighty Voices. And it's online. If you can Google it, or you can Facebook it, or you can find it if you want to find it. But it's a series of programs, and we decided to do 12. We'll probably do 13, one a week, and leave them up into cyberspace. And you can text to donate, and there are other ways, but you can just go to almightyvoices.ca and learn more about what the project developed into and where it is today.
That's wonderful news. Thank you for sharing that, Tom. I love your heart. You always love everyone. It's just so, and the contributions that you have made. I mean, it shows up in all the awards that you so well deserved and have. And you know what? That's just a small gift that we can give back to you. You have been an amazing individual for all of us, and thank you for your gifts.
Well, it wasn't my doing, Catherine. You probably know this story about me, but this all in my world came about because I was the architect of a hole that I lived in, and I had a crazy conversation with the creator once. He said, "I'm going to send you an angel, and the angel is going to be worse off than you. And if you help that angel, I'm going to help you." And I took the deal. But he didn't tell me where to find the angel. It was a little tricky about that. So I'm still looking for the angel. And so that journey brought me here to you.
Thanks for your blessing. I love you and Allison. Thank you for all that you do. Thanks to all of your friends for all the things you do each and every day. I'm very, very grateful.
Thanks. Well, thank the big guy. We all work for the same boss.
I agree with you. I agree. Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you. That was Mr. Tom Jackson. We all love him and so grateful that he lives here in Alberta. It's wonderful.